At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Hello and welcome to Vinny and me. This is Let Me Bore You to Sleep. Vinny's he was in bed. We were both having a little lie down. I got up and came in here, and now Vinny's got up and he's just pushed the door open and come in and staring at me for some reason. Why are you staring at me for, Vinny? For Vinny? Huh? Oh, I had a little nap. I've been tired all day because I got up at about 1:30 this morning to watch the boxing, and that went on till about 4, maybe 4:30, and then maybe 5, in fact. Then I went back to bed and I haven't really I haven't really got my sleep back, as it were. I haven't really Yeah, it's been a little bit tired, but I'm better now. Oh, that's better. I'll stop yawning. Good. I'll stop in a minute, don't worry. The yawns will be completed at some point. So this is Let Me Bore You to Sleep. Please only listen when you can safely close your eyes. And today is Sunday the 15th of June 2025. I haven't really necessarily particularly accomplished much today. Just trying to think, what have I done? I had a shower. Did a bit of work on the website, a little bit of work on the podcasts. Oh, I did a new thing. I put together all of the last 7 days Let Me Bore You to Sleep podcast episodes into just one recording. So I've done that today. And the problem with that is I had to put Whisper Wednesday last because I couldn't really have the Whisper Wednesday and then going back to talking at a kind of normal volume. It just didn't work, so I put that at the end of the recording. So yeah, I'm thinking of maybe doing that again next week. So basically it's Sunday to Saturday, and I do it on the Sunday, so it's those 7 days. Alright, Vinny. Then he's hearing something in the garden, and he's very interested. Oh, wow, I'm such a yawny head. I remember I got a message years ago, someone saying, I don't like it when you yawn. I was like, wow. Just, I don't like it when you... Well, nobody, and I do mean nobody, on the planet can tell me off for yawning. If I yawn, I yawn. What do you mean, I don't like it when you yawn? Who cares? I don't care if you like it or not. I'm not yawning to make people feel wonderful or to make people feel anything. I'm just yawning because I'm yawning. There's no, hello. I'm yawning because I'm tired, and I'm yawning because I'm thinking about yawning, and I'm probably yawning because I'm trying not to yawn, which is causing me to yawn even more. Yes. Sniffy sniff. I was wondering if I've got a little bit of... I get a little bit of a hay fever these days, because I've had a few days, a few times, maybe not the whole day, but where I just seem to come down with a cold, but then it's gone. I'm sniffling, coughing, sneezing, and then me, nothing. So I don't. Maybe I am a little bit affected by the pollen. Perhaps. I do live in the countryside, so there's no getting away from it, really. It's non-stop pollen, I imagine. Yeah, around here. But yeah, no. It's not debilitating, so it's not going to bother me. It's just weird. I just get a bit sniffly. Don't worry, I'm not going to sniff. Keep sniffing because that's grim. I remember when I was in the call centre. I think it was the last call centre I worked in. I had this bloke on the phone and he was sniffing. I think he had a full-on cold. It almost sounded like the phone was up his nose. Seriously, like he'd put the end of the phone up his nose, and all I could hear, and it was just, I did not enjoy that phone call. You can't shout through the phone, can you please blow your nose before we continue? I mean, you could include that in the script, but probably get sacked. The script that you say at the beginning. All calls are recorded. I remember when I did that. First, because I worked at Churchill, September 2001. I think it was the 9th. I'm not sure. I don't have my calendar. But anyway, it's the Monday. And whatever the Monday was that week. And it was pretty easy. I didn't realise how easy it was until it started getting more difficult. Because we just asked the questions and that was it. And then about 6 months, 7 months in, they walked around and handed us a script. And they said, you're going to have to read, or team leader said, you have to read this out to the customer right at the beginning of the call before proceeding with a car quotation. You have to read the whole thing out. It was just one page, but it was a good 30 seconds of talking. And it was laminated, I think. So I remember I used to twiddle with it and flick it around so it turned round in my hand. I thought it might impress some of the girls. Oh, what was I? Because I was 9 at the time, you see. I remember sort of looking at it and thinking, you know, when the team leader said, "Oh, yeah, you have to read this big long script out before," and then it goes another script, you have to read this out before taking payment, and you also have to read this script out before the end of the call. I was really talking about Willis, and my team leader, he took me aside and said, "Stop calling me Willis." He didn't know what the reference was from, because he was about I think he was about 11, my team leader, and I was 31, so he was a little bit younger than me. "What are you talking about, Willis?" And he didn't get the reference. A lot of people won't get the reference, and it doesn't matter, because all it does is make me look really old. It's really old. Referencing something from the late 70s. Wow. I pity the fool. Different person. Sounds similar when I do it, but I pity the fool. There's the other one I can't remember. Oh, I love it when a plane comes together. That was him smoking a cigar. Yeah. The A-Team. That was such a huge show. It's weird. I mean, are there any big TV shows now on television? I don't mean popular, but are there any shows which are just caught the imagination of the population of the Western world, in a sense of action figures and books, comics, Easter eggs with pictures of it on, and, you know, the main toy for Christmas that year is this thing. I mean, I don't know. I suppose Peppa Pig. That's one thing that was pretty huge, wasn't it? SpongeBob Sponge Pants was a big character, wasn't he? The Simpsons. But we're going back like quite a few years. I remember The Simpsons, right? I remember watching it, and then after a few years of watching it, it became, for some reason, it became really popular. It's almost like it was around for a while, and then the newspapers noticed it, and it was put on. You know, the newspapers thought it was for kids, and it's not a kids show at all. Never was a kids show. It's an adult show. It's adult humour. Yet it was put on in this country like 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and the press were all focusing on Bart Simpson and Eat My Shorts and all this stuff, and it was plastered everywhere. when Bart Simpson is not the star of the show. His dad is. And it's just really strange the way they interpreted it. I mean, he's a star, but he's not the star. Homer is... he is the king of that show. And Marge is the queen. But it's about Homer Simpson, isn't it? Do you know anyone now that says, oh, 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 like that? They still do that. Do you know anyone that still does that? I used to know people that did that, and they do it. And they did it for decades. And I didn't know why. I knew why. I knew it was, because Homer Simpson goes, oh, do, oh no, do, isn't it? Do, whatever. But I didn't kind of understand why humans were doing it. Do. Does anyone know anyone that does that? Because I've known people. I heard someone the other day said lol to me. Now, really like this person, so I'm not going to say anything bad. I just another person said it to me years ago. I like that person as well. So, but I just found it like, what? Lol. Not, they didn't laugh. They just went lol. It's like, okay. I can't keep up. I tell you what's needed. Oh, squeakies in the garden. I'll tell you what's needed is, I think, the old people, the old ones, the old uns, need to start doing their own language, put together their own sayings, their own little coded chat. Yeah. Just to confuse the young'uns. Or we just can continue to confuse the young'uns by talking how we've always talked. Because sometimes it feels like a different language. A different language. I'm sounding ancient, and I like a dusty old, I was going to say dummy, but not dummy, not model. Dummy. Is it a dummy? The dummy. The other thing wrapped up in bandages. Mummy, not dummy. Mummy. It's mummy, you dummy. Mummy. Why would it call it mummy? Oh, by the way, happy Father's Day if you celebrate such a thing. In UK, England, Britain, we have Mother's Day and Father's Day, but some other countries also celebrate it, have it on a different date. So Mother's Day was ages ago, and Father's Day in the UK is today. So yeah, happy Father's Day, wherever you may be. Yeah. Never received a Father's Day card. Never. I haven't been a father, have I? Father. Wonder what that's like. to actually be a parent. I guess I'm never going to know, am I? But can you just imagine? I know a lot of people listen to this are parents and they know exactly what it's like, but I don't. I really don't. I can't really get my head around it. It's a little bit like, what's it like to be a goldfish? I don't know. Goldfish know, but I don't know. What's it like to be 6'7"? I'm never going to know what it feels like to be 6'7". I mean, even if I wore stilts to make myself at that height, you know, there's limits to what I can do. I can't like spend my whole life with those stilts on. Supermarkets, for example, they have an issue with stilts. I never understood that. You try and go into Sainsbury's or Tesco's in this country, which is a grocery supermarket. Oh, can you please take the stilts off, sir? But they don't stop anyone that's actually naturally 6'7". They don't check them for stilts. Check me. That's the thing, right? If you're going to wear stilts, don't wear shorts. That's the problem. You need to get extra long trousers so it looks, and you need to sort of get some kind of, so it looks like you've got feet to the stilts on, because otherwise it don't work. If it's just like wooden pegs, because I'm sure you can get stilts that aren't wood, but I'm sticking to the old-fashioned stilts. I used to have stilts when I was a kid. We used to make stilts. It used to be fun. I don't think I've ever been on a professional stilt. Is there such a thing as a professional stilt? And a pogo stick, wouldn't that be quite a good way to actually travel? It'd be a much faster way, wouldn't it? And potentially more fun. You're like a really good pogo stick. One that, I'm not saying one that bounces really high, but bounces at a maybe mechanical bounce, you know, so you don't have to actually do anything. You just land and it just pushes you up. And at a height that it wouldn't matter. If you fell, you can be fine. So maybe a height of 2 feet or 3 feet. So you're always going to be, you know, health and safety is important. That's why I win. Where I wear it. No, I said that last time. So stilts. I started listening to some of my old recordings. I can't believe some of the things I say. Wow. Honestly, some of the things that slip out of my my mouth is ridiculous. It's just so silly. The other day, you might not have heard it, I was talking about the different pronunciations in America and England. So there's, like David Bowie. I mean, I know he's not American, but it was like, is it Bowie, is it Bowie? No one cared. Even he didn't care. It's Bowie. No, it's Bowie. I actually, as a kid, saw people get into an argument, like a proper, you know, emotional argument over how to pronounce David Bowie's name. There can't be, I can't imagine there's anything less important to anyone else except David Bowie or David Bowie. And I think I was talking about like the soaps, because we used to say, well, there was an argument in my, it wasn't like a big argument, but there was definitely a heated discussion because in the early 80s, very early 80s, there was like so many soap operas from America that were coming over, and unlike the soaps here, which would be on regularly, so Coronation Street would be on, I think back then, probably twice a week. It increased over the years, maybe 3 times a week, but it was on quite regularly. EastEnders hadn't started yet. Emmerdale Farm was on a few times a week, I think. Coronation Street, that might still been on a few times a week, maybe every night. But these American soaps were, we got to see them once a week, and they were huge. Compared to, because ours were just grotty. We all just had really grotty, kind of dull grey soaps. A bit like the country can be a bit like that, in this country, quite grey. And I said that the other day. It's still lovely, but it's just very, it's not the most colourful place at times. I mean, there's months and months where it's just grey. It's just, what is going on? And Coronation Street and Emmerdale Farm, which was based on a farm, that was never going to be very particularly colourful. Coronation Street was based in these just old-fashioned streets, and Emmerdale, Coronation, Crossroads was based in a motel. I liked Crossroads. We used to have, actually, Hospital. It was a soap, but it was about nurses in a hospital. Maybe doctors. Was it General Hospital? I'm pretty sure it was English. General Hospital. And I can't believe that I remember. I just had a memory that I have not had for years and years and years and years and years. And it's when I lived in Newcastle. General Hospital was on. And I think I was running down the stairs to... You know what? We could see a hospital from our... I'm pretty sure from the flats that I lived in. There was a big high-rise flat, block of flats. I could see a hospital. I'm sure I could. I just got these little memories of the hospital and the TV show, though, and where I lived at the time, and I used to watch it. Wow. There was a bloke on there with a beard, with a moustache. Yeah, he had a moustache and a white coat. I don't remember the tune, the theme tune. Welcome to General Hospital. We are a hospital, and we are General. I don't know what the theme tune was. I can't really think of any other soaps in the early 80s that was on that I used to watch. I mean, in the middle 80s, we got we got like a lot of the Australian soaps. So, Neighbours, which was a massive hit, and then Home and Away, which was also a massive hit, and then I think then Prisoner Cell Block H. I'm not sure when that came out. I know I used to watch it when I was probably about 16, 17, and probably 16. I used to watch Prisoner Cell Block H, but it used to be on late at night. And B was the one in charge. B, what B? And Mrs. Mangle, she was in Neighbours. Henry Bishop was in Home and Away. Wow. But you know what? The one Australian soap that I personally think was the best out of all of them, and never got its credit because it wasn't on at peak time. It used to be on in the afternoons. I don't know when they first started showing it, but I think it'd been around a long time. I got completely addicted to it in 1986, and it's called Sons and Daughters. Now that show, it was on every day. It knew, I think it was every day. Anyway, it knew how to do a cliffhanger. It did the best cliffhangers. Like, I can't think of anything. Bearing in mind, I was a proper TV buff back then. You know, TV and books. And when I got to about 12, you know, but generally TV and books was kind of my favourite thing. Yeah. Doctor Who used to have good cliffhangers. But what I noticed happened, even like the A-Team or it's kind of obvious that, I don't know, like a TV show that was, let's say it was the A-Team or Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was trapped inside a chocolate box covered in cream, but it was see-through, so you could watch her get changed. No, sorry, no. I'm just saying that and she couldn't get out of it. But the only way she could get out of it is by trying on lots of different costumes. See, I was a kid. This is what I used to think about back then. Not now. That's just wrong. I wouldn't think about that. But I was young and childish. So she'd be in this chocolate see-through box, trying on various 90s. I don't know why. I'm stuff like that just makes me feel ill. Just like, just cover up. That's how I feel now. But you know, I was a teenager. I was 10 or whatever. So 11, 10, 9. I loved Wonder Woman. But now I'm just like, oh, that is so gratuitous, and it's like, really, you know? What about equal rights, people? But back then, I loved seeing her bounce around. Not now. I've seen it recently, and I'm just disgusted that used to be on television for the populace to look at. That TV show was on television, not that as in her, but the TV show. I think they really took advantage of her good nature and getting her running around in that skimpy Wonder Woman costume. I think I need to open the window. It seems to be getting hot in here. What was I talking about? Erection? No. Sons and daughters, yeah. Oh, they all the way they used to leave it, cliffhangers, amazing. Now, Doctor Who used to be really good at that, but I'd noticed, like, I don't know when it started happening. Not just Doctor Who, but even other TV shows. Something happened where they would, I don't know. So, for example, I was doing that, wasn't I? So, Wonder Woman. Let's just think of a scenario. So, Wonder Woman's in this this steel cage, but it's see-through again. Well, there's a big X-ray machine, so you can see through the steel. No, stop that. So, Wonder Woman she's chained by her ankles and she's hanging upside down, and there's an animal on the floor. No one knows what the animal is because no one can remember, because no one's looking at the animal. But, you know, she's in danger, imminent danger, and like, do, and like, will Wonder Woman survive? Will Wonder Woman succumb to this imminent threat? Will anyone be able to tell us what the animal was that was on the floor? You know. So all week long I'd be waiting. I mean, I wouldn't just literally just be sitting there waiting in front of the TV for a whole week till the next Saturday, because unfortunately the schooling system we have here does not account for that. It doesn't take consideration for important television programs. And then I'd go back the next week and I'd wait. Well, I wouldn't go back, I'd be there because that's where I lived, but I'd be not in that cage with an X-ray so you could see through it. No, what I mean is at home. And we'd all be there for different reasons, watching it. And my older brothers would, I think my oldest brother would watch it for a little while, then he'd leave, and then he'd come back, and then my other brother would leave and come back. I don't know what they were doing. They just seemed to be, it's almost like they were taking turns. I think they must have had bad stomachs or something. He didn't have that toilet. And then my dad's moaning, "Where's the toilet roll gone? Where's it all gone?" Like, well, I don't know, I'm watching Wonder Woman. And I need toilet roll. Well, we all need something, don't we? I need to be able to watch Wonder Woman in peace, is what I thought to myself. I'm not going to be saying it out loud. And you'd see her escapes as she'd sort of wobble, not wobble, but like move from side to side and manage to, I mean, the abdominal strength that she must have had to do that, to be able to lift herself up and from that angle and to get back and like break the chains but climb up so that she didn't land whatever, I don't know what the animal, it could have been a shark, I don't know, could have been a hedgehog, I don't know what the hell it was on the floor that she didn't want to land on. And yeah, she escaped. I mean, she'd been there for, I mean, I was young, but I was thinking, she's been there a week. Why has no one got her a cup of tea and a donut or something? She's been there because there was nothing on her face. Her face wasn't covered in anything like you think. Because if she was eating upside down, your face would like have sugar on and all kinds of stuff, wouldn't it? Because I mean, I'm messy anyway when I eat. It goes all down my top. trying to eat, if you're trying to eat upside down, it's practically impossible. But if you was upside down for a week, you kind of have to, wouldn't you? Have to learn how to. But there was no mess. She looked exactly the same as she did a week ago, which is pretty amazing. I know she's a superhero and everything, but it was, yeah, couldn't really get my head around that. But you know, I was 7 years old, so don't blame me. Wow, it's not my fault. I didn't write the script. I didn't direct it. I didn't know. I thought it was real. I thought it was a documentary. I waited all week for that, so I went and and she escaped. And that was exciting. All week waiting to find out if Wonder Woman escaped from that being, chained upside down in some kind of box, see-through box or something. I don't know, whatever it was. No, it was in a warehouse. It was in a warehouse. Or was she in a tree? I remember when she spun around, she turned into a what was it, like a swimmer? I mean, she also had an invisible plane. That was funny. I don't know, even I found that a bit funny. So, invisible plane. Yeah, she wasn't invisible. I mean, you could argue it was Wonder Woman. She wasn't the invisible Wonder Woman. She was Wonder Woman. However, if you're an invisible plane, it doesn't really make sense if you can be seen, does it? Oh, there's it's fine. It sounds like a plane, but I can't see anything. Can't you see Wonder Woman there sitting in the clouds? Oh yeah. What's she sitting on? I don't know. It's making a lot of noise. Whatever's in between. It's noise. It's a plane. It sounds like a plane. It's a big plane. It's a plane, but it's invisible. It can't be a plane. Or what else would vibrate like that? It's a plane. I don't know if it's a plane. But it's got to be. It must be invisible. Yeah, that's what it is. It's an invisible plane. You'd think it'd make her invisible, though, wouldn't you? That's what I'm trying to point out. Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman. That was my favourite TV show. I probably preferred Wonder Woman over the Hulk, although I did love the Hulk as well. And the $6 Million Man. Or the Bionic Man. Who else? Kung Fu. He was a superhero. Batman, of course. But the Batmans were from the 60s. And I was watching them in the 80s, although it was still great. They still are great, even now, I think. The original Batman shows. They're funny. I don't ever remember seeing Superman TV shows until Lewis and Clark in the 90s. Was it Lewis and Clark? Yeah, Lewis and Clark. That was huge. Hugely successful in this country. That was peak viewing time on a Saturday night. But now Doctor Who, and a lot of shows for the last 20 odd years, or even more maybe, they'd have a cliffhanger and then they'd say, next week, tune in next week. So you got Doctor Who in a cage, in a box, I don't know, trapped, and then so what's going to happen? There's a Dalek, oh, a Dalek eating a sandwich or whatever, and then Oh no, the squirrel's going to get him, or is it the Dalek going to get him first, or the squirrel? There's a crazy squirrel with a baseball bat. And then they say, tune in next week. And they show you him sort of in a hammock eating some watermelon and with playing a harpsichord or whatever. It's like, not at the same time, but it's like, well, clearly he escaped. It's not much of a cliffhanger if you tell us, not just tell us, but show us that Doctor Who escaped. Dear Jason, I just want to point out, firstly, I think the way you were talking about Wonder Woman was wrong. Secondly, I think that you need to know that it's not Doctor Who, it's the Doctor. And secondly, the way you were talking about your brothers going out and taking turns in the bathroom or into the toilet, well, dear Jason, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, oh yeah, this is what I was talking about. I just came out with something really silly the other day. So the whole thing about, is it dynasty or is it dynasty? So basically we were arguing about how to pronounce certain words. It started off with David Bowie. Is it David Bowie or David Bowie? Bowie or Bowie? I think there was someone else. I can't remember. What's the other name? There was other names that weren't sure. I mean, there was a time when we didn't know. Yeah, when I was in Wales, Boy George, well, Culture Club, Culture Club were big, like, just come out, and they were huge. And they were even in the A-Team. So that's a bit of nostalgia there. What, Culture Club was in the A-Team? Yes, they were. And I remember sitting around outside the tent in Wales. We were all discussing whether or not Boy George was actually a woman or a man. Boy George, whether or not he was a woman or a man, because he wore a dress. And we were having this conversation. Looks like a woman. Not one person said, but his name's Boy George. There's a clue. There's a clue somewhere. I mean, it might be quite cryptic. It's, yeah, I love Boy George. Culture Club was great. In your eyes that way, I'm a man. See, it's in the title. Without conviction, I'm a man who doesn't know. I mean, there was evidence. But I think we just used to argue about anything for no reason. That was it. Always had to be an argument. So there's 4 brothers and parents, and it was just kind of, okay, one of the kids was tiny, so he wasn't that involved, but he did get involved after, as soon as he could talk, he was arguing, causing trouble. A proper troublemaker. Always arguing. In the end, I just used to just like, oh, I can't be bothered with this. Why are you arguing? And then let's start, and they're like, let's start another argument. We're not arguing. That's the whole thing. I remember seeing in Big Brother, this woman saying, oh yeah, you seem so angry. I'm not angry. I'm passionate. Okay. That's the whole thing. Is how do you make an angry person angry? Tell them they're angry. Wow. I'm not angry. I'm passionate. I'm not hungry. Give me some food. Oh yeah, so the argument was, or the discussion, but it was an argument. Is it dynasty or dynasty? Dynasty or dynasty? So half of my family said it's dynasty. The other half was saying it's dynasty because it was pronounced, I think, different in America or whatever. And this is, I was talking about this the other day in a podcast, and because I wanted to contribute, and we'd already talking about David Bowie, is it David Bowie or David Bowie? And I shouted out, what about Dallas? And everyone just stopped and looked at me. I said, what do you mean? I said, how do you say that? How do you pronounce that one? I really thought I was contributing something to the argument, but it just gave me the giggles when I thought about it the other day. It's such a silly thing to say, isn't it? What about Dallas? It's not as funny now, but it was back then. It felt funny because it was just. I do like absurdness. I do. I don't know why. It just tickles me a little bit. Just really silly things. It makes me laugh. So I did that. Put that podcast together with all the recordings from last week, or the last 7 days, just to let me boy to sleep ones, or LMBYTS, let me bore LMBYTS you to sleep. Yeah, LMBYTS. I wanted to make a recording earlier, but I just couldn't do it. I wouldn't have been able to do it without falling asleep. My voice is all deep now. All deep. I was born under a star. I have to do that every time I got a croak on. I have to try and do the old I was born under a star. Rolling, 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 keep that dragon rolling, 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 rawhide. Yeah. I sometimes feel that I'm in the middle of sort of almost like the end of an era, the beginning of an era, the end of that era, and then the beginning of another era. It might just be because I've lived so long, but it's like the end of the 70s seemed to give way to kind of a new period. The music was quite different. The world seemed quite different. That's probably more to do with, I'm just getting older, but the 70s, when I think of the 70s, I think of a very, very grey, very, I just remember a lot of the strikes and all that stuff, and it was, this didn't seem great. Some people loved the 70s, so I was a kid, so I didn't get to really experience the 70s in sort of an amazing way. But the 80s seemed different. Then there was the 90s. So for me, my years, in a way, were the 80s and 90s. So, from 10 to 30. Because the 20s are quite, I would say, important period, isn't it? And that period of going through teenage years and manoeuvring the whole kind of leaving school, getting a job, perhaps having a relationship of some kind, and finding somewhere to live, and paying rent and all that stuff, maybe for the first time. It was interesting. It wasn't interesting at all, actually. I don't know why I said the word interesting, but it can be, I guess, an interesting period for some people. No, I was never a big fan of paying rent. I'll be honest. Once I got my flat above the chip shop when I was 16, once I moved in there, paying £40 a week, I had £47 a week coming in. That's how much money I was earning a week. So I was paying £40 out of that for the rent. So, it was... I was actually financially better off when I had a paper round. When I was living at home and had a paper round, I had more money in my pocket than I had when I was working full time. And I was doing 6 days a week as well. Well, evenings, but 6 different days. So I had Sunday off. And it was weird. It's like... It's really strange to think that some of the people I worked with there would be now pensioners. Some of them probably had a good sort of, 6, 7 years on me. Maybe they were 26, probably about 5 years, maybe 6 years. So 22, so that'd be in their 60s. And some of the waitresses that were maybe a year or so younger than me. So they'll be kind of my age now. Possibly had like loads of kids, maybe. Maybe not. Didn't really keep in contact with them, really. I think one of them had quite a few kids. Didn't have waiters there. It was like a chip shop restaurant. There was a restaurant there. There wasn't a lot of tables, but it was a good size to make money. They were definitely making money. They'd have coach trips of pensioners come and eat in there on a Tuesday and a Thursday, because it was a seaside place. So even in the winter, coaches would come down from, I don't know, London maybe, or Essex, or different parts around the area. They'd come down and go and eat in a restaurant, or go for a walk on the beach, or on a promenade, Yeah. And I think there was an OAP discount. Can you hear all that screaming in the garden again? Wow. I can't escape it, unfortunately. It's just... I think it might just be a little bit of an echoey area. So maybe they're not shouting all the time. Maybe they're talking just normal kind of volume. But it's just echoing. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Maybe it's just like magnificating itself It's possible. That's not what's happening, but it's possible. It might be. It might be. Yeah. And it's strange thinking about people that, even my karate instructor, I think he's now in his 70s, that I had when I was at school. So when I was, 14, 15, he was a good 20 years older than me. Or maybe 15. So maybe he was 30. Yeah, maybe he was 30. So he'll be about 70 now. It might have been a little bit, it might have been early 30s, but he was a fully grown adult. He wasn't in his 20s anyway. He could have been 29, but I would probably say he was about 30 at the time. So, yeah, it'd be 70. He was one of my heroes. I had heroes. I never told them. You can't really walk up to someone and say, "You're my hero." Bye. It's a bit weird, isn't it? But he was one of my heroes. He was my karate instructor. And, I've had heroes that were famous, and like Bruce Lee, and boxers that I've seen, like Frank Bruno. And, when I was a kid, TV characters, Wonder Woman, they were heroes. But then he was like a real life person that I looked up to. I had no choice. It was about 6'6", but I looked up to him as a I don't know about a role model, because I had no idea what kind of life he led, but I just really liked him. And there was another instructor. Well, he was a brown belt. This other person, he became a black belt shortly, I think, after I left school, or just before I left school. And I really looked up to him. Yeah, he was definitely a black belt before I left school. So I think he probably got his black belt when I was about 15, 14 maybe. Not my instructor. The main instructor was already like a second belt. I think he got his black belt in the 70s. Yeah, I think he got his black belt in the 70s. I could look it up. I can actually look up this information if I wanted. But I'm sitting down, so I can't be bothered. And it's so nice to not be looking at a computer screen. Oh, it's lovely. Just means I can't fact check any of my lies. Never mind. What other people did I look up to? Real life people. I mean, there were real life people, but just not people that I knew. There were, and when I was in my 20s, there was comedians that I looked up to. There's loads that were just brilliant comedians. So, not all of them liked me, or I say liked me, I don't know if any of them liked me, but not all of them acknowledged my existence, as it were. But some did, and they're the ones that I respect most. Because, Alan Davis, Harry Hill, people like Lee Mack, other ones like Lee Mack wasn't. early 90s, but all these people that kind of went on to have TV careers, and they were friendly to me. I used to get on very well with Tim Vine, who went on to do a lot of TV work, and I kind of had at different periods. So when I was performing, I got to know everyone on the circuit, all the promoters, the club owners, and all the comedians, the ones that were successful, the ones that were just plodding by and were happy to just do a few gigs a month and maybe get paid for it, and others that were aiming for bigger things, some that were on the way to being famous, some that were already famous but still dipping their toes into the comedy scene, maybe do a few gigs here and there just to, practice some new material for an upcoming tour or something like that, And then there was ones that were new, like myself, who just starting out, didn't really know what they were doing. And then out of those new ones, there was those that went on to be famous, and they were good almost straight away. I wasn't in that category. I probably classed as a newbie the whole time I was doing it, really. Yeah. But, so I had that 8 years of being around comedians. I can't even imagine how many performances, stand-up comedy performances I saw during that period. In fact, the only people that would have seen as many stand-up performances as I have, as many, probably, and also maybe a lot more as well, but the only people that would have seen the amount of performances of stand-up comedy as myself are those that either perform comedy or are involved in it. Let's say they run a club. That's the only people that would have seen as much comedy as me during that time. I suppose if someone went to comedy twice a week since 1990, then they'd have seen more comedy than me, because that's like 30 odd years, isn't it? 30 years of, yeah, so they'd have seen more comedy than me. But I'm sort of, as an average person that maybe goes to see comedy once a week, man, that's an avid fan. Someone that goes to see a comedy show once a week is a big comedy fan. But I used to go multiple times a week. But, I was trying to learn to do it. And then, so I had some people, I was friends with a lot of the open acts, the new people. And then, when I was doing some DJing in a comedy club, I became friends with the comedians, the ones that were getting paid, the really, the good ones. There's not that the ones that weren't getting paid much weren't good, but the established, and so many of them went on to do TV work and got their own. Some of them became really famous, like Jimmy Carr. I saw him for years and years and years. He was almost like the regular compere at this comedy club, and then he started doing TV stuff, and then he was headlining. I mean, he was successful very quickly, and still is. So I used to see him. Also, his management was my friend. Well, two friends, my friend and a lady who she still manages him, but my friend also managed him, because they did it with the comedy club. So it was so Jimmy Carr's manager was my friend just for I don't know how many years, a few years. And if you don't, he's now with Chambers Management. So I used to know her, Hannah Chambers. I used to know her. Haven't seen her for donkeys and zebras and a long time. And the last time I saw her was, wow, long time ago. Decades. Decades and decades and decades. Always got on with her, always liked her. Always got on with her. Decades ago. Decades and decades. It's really weird. She got herself an assistant. And I used to still go up to London to visit and stuff. And I couldn't believe it. I walked into the office because she was still working from above the comedy club, because that's where the agency was based. And there was a female there. It was just like a younger version of her. Not related, but honestly, same characteristics, looked very similar, same hair, curly hair. It's like same build of body. It's like, if you gotta be related, surely that's like your younger sister or something. It wasn't. No relationship, no like blood relatives. It's just like, that was just one of those weird moments. Like, wow, just remembered that. Don't know if you can hear there. Out there. So, what was I talking about? Oh yeah. But why was I talking about gigs? Comedy gigs? I don't know. It's kind of weird how many of... Who did I see? Oh, I saw a comedian. He was always older than me anyway, but not by a huge amount. And I saw him on this particular comedian. He's been on TV loads and he's had a really good career. And I saw him on some game show, question quiz show thing, like a celebrity version. I was like, just looks so old now. I mean, he is, but it's just like, wow. I just remember what he looked like in the early 90s. And no one looks the same as they did in the early 90s, and they shouldn't either. If you find someone that looks the same as they did in the early 90s, call the police. There's something going on. I remember Steve Coogan. I never spoke to Steve Coogan. He was already pretty much a big shot long before I was even on the scene. I think he was doing voiceovers for Spitting Image, and he was already really successful. He wasn't like famous yet, but he was on its way. And to me, Steve Coogan's probably the Alan Partridge character is the best comedy character. I think, for me personally, I think it's the best comedy character ever created. And there's been so many. I mean, Bilko's one, isn't it? Just for example, but Borat, Inspector Clouseau. I mean, I don't compare any of them with each other. But what he's done is the substance he's added, and the fact that he's been doing the same character since for 35 odd years is phenomenal. It is something almost unrivaled, I would say. I mean, there's some people. What was Dame Edna Everage? So she was that was a character, and she was probably doing that for like 40 odd years, if not more. Or he was doing that for 40 odd years. But I can't. And Lily Savage. But Lily Savage, well, both of them are no longer here, are they? Lily Savage. Isn't it weird? Well, it's not weird, but Lily Savage never really wasn't really my thing. Didn't really. I don't know what it was, because I knew it was a character, and that's what he became famous for. And you know, I think he won a Perrier for it in the early 90s. And what I liked though is when he just was himself, and he did a TV show during the day, and it was such a good show. It was funny. It was just, I don't know. He was almost like the perfect TV host. It was so good. He loved dogs, and I can't remember his name now. O'Dowd, isn't it? Something O'Leary, not Dermot O'Leary. Did I say his name? Is from Liverpool. What was his? I can't remember what the female name was now. That's terrible, isn't it? But he was so good. I really liked him a lot. I never got to see the performance on stage of him doing his act, like his comedy act, because he was pretty much already famous, or on his way to being famous. He was already doing shows, like touring and stuff like that, before I had even arrived. You know, he was big pretty much straight away. Not straight away, but he was popular. O'Leary? I can't think. Lee Mack, who's very well known in this country, he once said to me that he liked my act. So there. He might have just been saying it just to be kind, but he said it. This was in 1997 or 8. 98 probably. 97. 98, one of them. And I said, thank you. I said, you're not too bad. I reckon if you keep going, you might be able to get some paid gigs. Now he's probably one of the most famous comedians in the country, actually, Lee Mack. He's had a great career. Very quick. Now, I know, because he told me, his biggest hero was Tim Vine, who I also knew, because I started at the same time as Tim Vine. And Tim went on to be... So this is something this is trivia. This is a Trivia Tuesday thing. When Channel 5 launched in, I think it was 1997. Could have been 96, but I think it was 97. Like beginning of the year-ish. Yeah, I think it was 97. 1997. Tim Vine was the face of the new channel. Now, bearing in mind we only had 4 channels. BBC One, BBC Two, ITV and Channel 4. We'd had Channel 4 since probably about 1982. So before that, 3 channels. So in a country that only has 4 channels, a 5th channel is a big deal. And it was huge publicity. So when Channel 5 launched, Tim Vine launched it. Not just on his own, but he was the face of Channel 5. In the same way that Jimmy Carr became the face of Channel 4. Although Channel 4 was already established, but Jimmy Carr was he was on lots of different things. Tim Vine was on lots of different things on Channel 5. He had, I think, at least 2 game shows and some other stuff. So he was proper flying, which was great. I think the last time I saw him was about 1999. Yeah. Oh yeah, so why am I mentioning him? What's his name? Lee Mack. Absolutely, his hero, his comedy hero was Tim Vine. And he wanted to be like Tim Vine. But he was never going to be like Tim Vine because he just had a different act. But I think they enjoyed the puns because Tim Vine was kind of the king of puns. And I think he held the world record for the most jokes told in a specific amount of time. Is quick fire jokes, bang, 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 really. But he was, I used to see him. I remember, here's this weird, right? So Tim Vine went on really, he had a really good career, and he did work with Lee Mack. They worked together a couple of times, actually. I think they had what was it called, the stand-up show, and then they did another one, Not Going Out. So they both worked together. Two things I remember about Tim Vine, right? It's weird, I'm talking about people that you might not have ever heard of, especially if you're not maybe from this country, but you might want to Google it at some point, or Google him or them, the different comedians I've mentioned. So the first time I saw Tim Vine was at an open act evening, and he got laughs, but the comedians were not happy because he did some old jokes. What's his name? Just like that, that comedian. He did some old jokes, and some of the comedians are being really vicious to him, or about him rather. And it was his first time on stage. Come on. Or maybe it's not his very first time, but his first sort of thing. And he went away and he came back with his own stuff. But Tommy Cooper, that's it. But they didn't realise what he was doing. He showed that he had star ability, that he had to be able to stand in front of an audience talking into a camera, a microphone. It might not be quite as easy as it looks. I'm just going to say that there's a lot of people just can't do it, never even attempt it. So he obviously showed that he had the bottle to do it, and then he went away and he came back and he started getting good. I got 2 memories of him after that. I remember once he said to me, we was in the comedy club, and he said, the Comedy Store are going to give me some gigs. I got an interview with them to do a gig there, and I've told them that I've decided, because I think he was still working while he was doing a comedy at this point. He had a job, and he said, I'm going to give up my job. I can hear his voice now to say, I'm going to give up my job and I want to do comedy full time, and I want to put everything into it, and I will be successful. And he said to me, that's what he told the person at the comedy store, the owner of the comedy store. And he did, and he did, and he was. Another memory I've had with him, and this was probably before that conversation. We both did this gig together, and it was in the middle of nowhere. It really was, right in the sticks, kind of Middlesex area. Because you've got Middlesex, Hertfordshire, Essex, all these little areas that are like outside of London, and you can end up in the middle of like in a place that is nothing around, like one pub, 6 houses, and a post box. You know, it's like, and a train stop. So people might live there and get the train into London, but there's nothing to do when they're at home apart from be at home. There's nothing there. And some people they like that. I mean, it's a little bit like here, really, I guess. This is probably like that, thinking about it. Anyway, we're in the middle of this place, in the middle of nowhere, and we're at this venue. I think it was like an arts theatre or arts centre, unless it was upstairs in a pub. Anyway, Tim Vine was doing a comparing. So he came on. He didn't like it. They didn't like him. So he introduced the first act. Came on again. Audience didn't like him. I did my act. I don't even know if I was on. I probably was on. Came on again. Audience didn't like him. Third act, like another short one. And and we were just laughing because they just didn't like. They really were hostile towards him, and he was doing exactly the same as he always ever did, which normally was really successful because he was a very likable person. So what he did is he came back on stage wearing a plant pot on his head, but it was a proper plant pot. Mud everywhere, all over the place, all over his head, dripping down his face. And it got everyone's attention. And he said, oh, that last compare was crap, wasn't he? And they laughed, and from that second they loved him. And he didn't do any different material than what he would have done anyway. You know, he just carried on with his act. And they loved him, but they just didn't like him before. Fickle. It's very strange how that can happen. I've actually seen more than once a comedian go on stage, do exactly the same act. This is someone, Earl Oaken, and he was, I don't know if he's still doing it, but he looked a bit like Roy Orbison. He had the glasses and he had a guitar. He was like a middle-aged man, and he would sing. And I'd never seen him before. This is the first time I'd ever seen. No, I had seen him, I think, once before at the Comedy Store, but this is the first time. You know, I hadn't seen him for years and years. So he came on stage, sat down, and people were literally booing him. And I think someone even chucked stuff on the stage. They did not like him at all. This is the Friday night. And he got off after probably about 10 minutes. Didn't do his full set. And they were really hostile to him. There was about 200 people in the audience. It wasn't like a huge amount of people, but still it wasn't nice. It wasn't a nice atmosphere. The Saturday night, he still turned up, to do his gig, and possibly had one of the best performances I've ever seen any comedian have, as far as an audience reaction. Standing ovation after standing ovation. Now, I'm exaggerating for effect, but it really was an amazing gig. The audience loved him from the second they saw him. And they laughed at everything. And this was a seasoned pro that had probably been doing it for 20 years. He knew every sound he did, every facial expression he'd probably done hundreds and hundreds of times before to perfect the act. And it was a great act, really funny. But the first night, Friday night, they weren't having it. Saturday night, like different audience, but still, it's like. And the weird thing is, I found myself being swayed by the audience, because I watched both performances, and he did look rubbish on the Friday night. On the Saturday night, he looked amazing, but he wasn't doing anything different. I've no doubt that being booed and shouted at would have affected his performance on Friday night, but, you know, to start with, he was doing everything the same. And he's one of the best performances I've ever seen on stage. And I've seen, I don't know, how many have I seen? Thousands, probably. If you include all the ones I've seen on YouTube and stuff since, but thousands on stage live, even if it was like only 5 or 10 minutes slot. I've seen a lot of, over that 20-year period of sort of going to comedy clubs. 10 really intensive years, and then I was still going back during the following 10 years. Yeah. In fact, I was still involved in 2016, something that my friend did, but I just didn't want to travel to London anymore. I just didn't feel up to it, which is a shame. I kind of wish I had now. I went a couple of times. I did help out. I did some volunteering at a local centre. I don't know what it's called, but it's like a venue. I think it's a charity, but it's a venue where they have music, dancing, stuff like that. And I volunteered there for a few times, but again, I couldn't. One day I couldn't face going in, and kind of messed it up for myself. But I saw a couple of comedians there, and it was so different to see for me, it was so different to see a comedian on stage with an audience, especially probably more than 200 people as well. But I've seen audiences of much more than 200, but it's just not being in London, to see a stand-up comedian outside of London was just weird, but it's so funny. And I never really understood why people laugh as much as they do sometimes at a comedy gig, like the audience. I didn't understand it as an audience member, because I never really felt like an audience member, really. I have been thousands of times, but not really, because I was kind of either part of the show or just hanging around with the other comedians, you know. So I was kind of there or working. But we had my second insurance job, we had a night out. Everyone went, and it was at Ipswich football ground. Blimey, it was, yeah. Had a night out, and they put on a comedy show. It was hilarious, and it was comedians that I'd already seen before, no one, they didn't see me because I was in the audience. I was like in the dark in the crowd, but it was so weird because they were making fun of people that I worked with. It made it funnier. So their ad-libs and their put-downs were way more funnier as an audience member, knowing the person they were put down or putting down, than if it had just been in a normal crowd of people I didn't know. It was hilarious. Plus I suppose I was drinking as well, but it was great night. Just like, yeah, still a big comedy fan, really. So this is my Sunday chit-chat. I don't know what I've been talking about. So, but I'm going to go. I have to take this one OUT for a walk. So thank you for listening. Tomorrow I will do Monday's boring objects. Tuesday I will do Tuesday's... what is it? Trivia Tuesday. Wednesday, hopefully I'll do Whisper Wednesday. And then I'll do Q&A Friday again. Now, just to let you know, if you're still awake, my neighbour opposite me is having his bathroom fitted. Either tomorrow or Tuesday. I think it's tomorrow, actually. Which means there's going to be a lot of noise. So if for any reason I can't make a recording on any of those days, or all of those days, just, please forgive me. Because there's only so much noise I can allow when I'm doing a recording in the background. And there's going to be a lot of doors slamming and stuff like that as well, which means old Vinny here will be barking quite a lot. So, this... I've got to manoeuvre myself around this whole thing. But I will definitely do a Q&A Friday, even if I do it in the evening on Friday. But I'll try and do normal recordings this week, if at all possible. So, thank you for listening. Remember to be kind to yourself, because you do deserve to be happy. And be gentle with yourself, because you do deserve to feel safe. Lots of love. Bye.